Hello everybody and welcome to another Borderlands 4 video. Today I've got my ultimate Harlowe build for you all. This is something that I've been working on for the past 30 to 40 hours or so, farming up pretty much every legendary in the game to try and figure out what I want most in my build to pretty much be able to take on anything that is inside the game as Harlowe right now. Now I'm going to go over pretty much every single aspect of this build. If there's anything in particular that you want, whether it be the skills, how the build actually works, or where you can farm each of the different items, there will be timestamps going over each of these. Now with that, let's go ahead and jump right into the build. So the whole point of this build is going to be neutron capture. The way that it works is that when you fire your energy pocket at an enemy, all of the damage that it deals will be calculated, and after the explosion, whatever the total damage was, 4% of that will be added to all of your guns. The way that this works is that it adds flat damage to each projectile that you fire. As such, you want to fire weapons that either have very high rate of fire, like a Mad Lad, or have a lot of projectiles, like a Lux or a Convergence. With the actual build now, you want to go into Field Ready Prototype, as that will increase the damage of the neutron capture. Elementary, to increase all elemental damage, which you should be using radiation for the majority of your guns, unless the enemy is an elemental eater with radiation. Enriched for more radiation damage. And then to get us down to the next part of the tree, we go ahead and grab 2 points into Get Up and Go for some extra movement speed. Now from here, we go into a little bit of the left and a little bit of the right. First, we go into Highly Efficient. This is a kill skill that gives you shield capacity whenever you kill an enemy with a skill. Now, while the Chroma Accelerator is a skill, it actually will not be what we use here to get most of our shield back. Whenever you use neutron capture, the bonus damage that you get that amps all of your shots is actually considered skill damage itself. This means that while neutron capture is active for 8 seconds, anything that dies during those 8 seconds will regenerate 40% of your shield with every single kill. This makes it nearly impossible to die, as your shield pretty much just keeps getting refilled instantly all the time. Next up, we go into Poison Sun for more radiation damage and a radiation chance. Chain Reactor, so that way we can do bonus radiation damage to entangled enemies. We put 2 points into Thistle Launcher, really just so that way we can get down into Demon Core. Demon Core will be the majority of the damage that the Chroma Accelerator does, so this is more or less mandatory for the build. We skip over the green tree entirely, as I don't feel like there's anything inside the tree that is honestly necessary. Next up, we go into Parallel Circuit. Whenever you trigger your action skill, you will get more gun damage, which gun damage is not really that necessary for your actual guns. The main reason that you take it is so that way when you go into your specializations, all of your gun damage will convert into action skill damage. So this is sort of an indirect action skill damage increase. Next, we go ahead and go into 5 points for Periodic Table Flip, giving yourself more elemental damage, as well as status effect application chance. And we put 5 points into Bright Future, as fire rate is one of the most important stats for Harlowe, as the only thing that really matters when you're using neutron capture is just how fast you can hit the enemy and as rapidly as you can hit the enemy. From here, you'll have 4 points to put pretty much wherever you want as you feel that they are necessary. For me, I put them in Unstable Isotope. Reason being is that it is 28% more damage, which for those that have ever played Path of Exile should know, more damage is always good because it is an extra 28% on top of anything that you already do. Now going into Specializations, I haven't been able to quite max out the specializations in the way that I want them just yet, as it does take quite a bit of grinding, but I can walk you through the different aspects of what you're going to want to go for. First and foremost, I like to go down the Sharpshooter and the Runner tree, not just for the movement speed or reload speed, but also so that we can get down into Daredevil. Now the main reason that you want to get into Daredevil is for I Am a Gun. This transfers 50% of all gun damage stats into action skill damage. As you go further down, you'll eventually get into a Honed Mind, which will give you 50% critical hit damage as well as crit hit chance with your action skill, further boosting your Chroma Accelerator. Honed Mind, I would say though, is one of the lesser activations that you were going to need, so you don't need to beeline it straight to Daredevil. I'm making my way on over to it. You're also going to want to go down Brute for the same reason that it gives gun damage and works well with I Am a Gun. And then you want to go into Riddle You This. whenever you do gun damage, you will increase your gun damage up to 50%, which half of that will be translated into skill damage. If you manage to have a honed mind, I am a gun, and riddle you this, the next one that I like to go into, assuming that you are grinding out this character, will either be the best defense or bullets are scared of me. Since your shield is pretty much always full at all times, this is just 30% for damage, which is always good. Now, let's go over the different weapons that I like to use. The main star here is going to be the Convergence shotgun. For the Convergence shotgun, you're ideally looking for a radiation gun. Now, you can pretty much use whatever convergence you want, so long as it is elemental. An elemental gun is incredibly important as it will heavily synergize with the class mod that we end up using. I also have an AC May for a non-elemental shotgun. Reason being is that unless you have a different weapon, you're going to have issues dealing with elemental eaters that have radiation on them. This means that they will be completely immune to all radiation damage, which is the one key moment of all of your guns. So you want to try and have something that can be useful. Typically, I like using either AC May or a Mad Lad. If you go for the Mad Lad, typically you want to get one that has a shotgun attachment, as it will go very well with the rest of the build. I also like to use a Noisy Cricket, as that will help with traversal through the entire map. Now let's go over the different items here. For the rep kit, this is pretty much dealer's choice. It doesn't really matter too much what you decide to use for a rep kit. I have an accelerator on mine, but recently found another one that has tank on it, which reduces damage taken by 50% and has a chance to give you charges whenever you kill. There's also war paint, which can be used to give yourself fire rate and movement speed, which is also nice. But I like to have the triple bypass, as it gets charges whenever you get kills, pretty much ensuring that you have it at all times. Now for your ordnance, you don't really need to have the knife, but it does make things a little bit easier. It's more damage taken for the target, as well as turning all of your hits into crits. Although I do see this one getting nerfed relatively soon. Coming down now, we have one of the primary pieces of this build, Practical Skeptic. This is a class mod specifically for her stasis skill tree. However, we don't actually use the stasis. Instead, we use it for the last little bit of the class mod, where it says shooting enemies with an active status effect restores 5% of your action skill cooldown. In addition, it comes with 25% damage reduction, which is very good. Now the action skill cooldown recovery pretty much is an instant recovery as long as you're shooting them with a shotgun, as every single pellet counts for the action skill cooldown. So if you're hitting them with a convergence, you'll be able to get your action skill back nearly instantly. Now for shields, there's two different shields that I like to use. For mobbing, I like to use a segmented fireworks. The fireworks shield makes it so whenever you kill something, that damage will now go and seek out another target. One thing to note is that each of the fireworks that fire off are benefited from the neutron capture, and they will also get that bonus radiation and bonus damage, allowing for chain reaction kills where sometimes the map clears itself without you having to do really much of anything. For the other shield, especially for bosses, I like to use a Protean Cell. This is a very interesting shield, as it gives you the ability to add 40% more damage on top of everything that you are already doing, which again, more damage is always good. Now note that while this shield is active, you do not have a health gate, so it can be a little bit dangerous to use this. This is more of an advanced shield. You don't need to actually use it. I would typically just stick with using fireworks pretty much all the time, or a super soldier shield. And then finally for the enhancement, I like to use something that will go really well with the convergent shotgun. So I went with a dangerous hefty uptick with an accelerator enhancement. This makes it so that way you get 1% fire rate for each of the bullets fired up to a maximum of 50 stacks, which resets on reload. However, if you are using a Cult of the Vault licensed magazine, as long as the gun does not fully overheat, the gun will never have to be reloaded. And since it is never reloaded, you get to keep the 50% fire rate at all times. In addition, this increases gun damage and magazine size. Magazine size being a very important thing if you're gonna go Cult of the Vault, so that way you don't have to worry about overheat. For this reason alone, I like to go bullets to spare for extra fire rate, extra magazine, in addition, more fire rate based on the gun's magazine size. Now, while Cult of the Vault is technically an infinite magazine, it will use whatever is on the card as your magazine for the extra fire rate. You can also swap out the Practical Skeptic or an Atomic Driver if you want to just go for full ridiculous damage. It is a little bit scary to try and use this item as it will bring you to 1 HP pretty rapidly, but since everything kind of dies instantly, it's not too bad. And with that, that is the build completed. In the background, you've seen the gameplay going through, and you can see that there's pretty much no issues. You're able to clear enemies relatively easy. If your action skill falls down, then you've got the Convergent Shotgun pretty much bringing your action skill back instantly, and that's all you're gonna really need. Now, let's go over quickly where you can find each of these items. For the Convergent Shotgun, you're going to want to go to the top part of the map in the winter area, and you are looking for a boss called Bramble Song. It is inside the Bitter Vein Abandoned Auger Mine, which you will have access to about halfway through the story. Now, for the Triple Bypass Syringe, you can find that one coming all the way over here to the Fadelands, and you are looking for a boss called the Back Hive, which can be found inside the Claim, which is very close to Zadra's backup plan, Fast Travel. Now, as far as where you can find the knife is a interesting item in that it has no dedicated loot spawn. However, if you are looking for the Penetrator Augment as well as the Damage Amp Payload, note that you do not need to have a purple knife. Blue or better will actually work for getting the 2 rolls that you need. If you're only looking for Penetrator, you can actually get it on just a green knife itself. But as far as where to farm it, it's going to be wherever you can farm red chests in quick succession. Honestly, I actually like the Timekeeper boss as he comes with 4 red chests at the end of the boss fight and can make farming knives a little bit easier. Same thing for enhancements. You're really not going to be able to dedicate farm for the enhancement. Just keep looking for it while you farm for your perfect convergence as well as the other legendaries. Now, for the Protean Cell, that one will come from Fractus in Carcadia Burn, inside the Crawlcroft. Now, for this one, it is actually inside a Order encampment that you will need to go into and go down the tunnel that is inside this area. Note that the front door is locked with a giant invisible wall around it, so make sure that you go around the back so that you can actually get inside. For the Segmented Fireworks, that one will come from Splash Zone, one that I'm sure that you've already killed hundreds of times, but in case you don't already know, Splash Zone at the very beginning of the game will be the one that drops your fireworks, which is a shield I recommend getting all the time anyway. For the Practical Skeptic class mod, you can find that from Callus inside of Carcadia Burn, located all the way in the top left in the moon called Throne. So the Noisy Cricket will come from Sydney Pointy Legs, from the Prospects Ripper Drill site, relatively close in the Fadelands, and a fairly easy farm to get. Now, for the Mad Lad, you can find this one inside of the Order Bunker that is also in the Fadelands. You are looking for an enemy called Mimicron, which is located right here next to Wycliffe's Reprieve and inside Tipping Point. And then finally, for the AC May, you can find it inside the Ark of Origo from the Vault boss that is inside. But personally, I would recommend just getting a Mad Lad. It's more for the high pellet count, which can work if you want to use something other than the Convergence. Now, as far as other firmware that you can go for, there's a lot of mixing and matching that you can do. You do have 2 other parts. I do like to go at least 1 piece into Deadeye for the increased accuracy, and Lifeblood isn't really necessary, so feel free to use that as dealer's choice. Overall, I hope you enjoyed the build guide and look forward to more builds coming in the near future. The next character I'll be going over is Rafa, but I will also be making builds going over Harlowe's skills for both the blue tree and the green tree respectively. Hope you all enjoyed, and if you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like and a comment on who you want to see next. And with that, I'm out. See y'all later.